And before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Over me. Over me. And before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my own grave and go home to my Lord and be free. Come on, weekend. No more weekend. No more weekend. And before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my own and go home to my Lord and be free. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Freedom.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Bruce Farrington, and I document history in the local area. We are so happy to have you here today as we celebrate this historic marker and the people that it honors. And we are especially happy to have so many of the descendants here today. First, we're going to start with Don Ross, who has a few words. He is the Sodas Town Board Councilman.
Thank you, Bruce. As just mentioned, my name is Don Ross. Sorry? How's that? Better? I'd like to welcome everyone to this very solemn and humbling event. And I can tell you, I live 2 doors up the street, and when this marker was placed, you could almost feel it. It's just, it's very moving. And I appreciate the supervisor asking me to do this today. So with that, Bruce, I think everyone's shivering a bit. Yeah.
I heard some of the out-of-towners ask, is it always this cold in the spring? And the answer is no. Sometimes it's colder. We have a few changes in our schedule here today, but we'll just go with the flow, and I'll make the changes as we go along. I think I'm going to... Okay, how's that? All right. I'm going to do the recognition here next. And there's some people that need to be recognized and organizations that made today possible. First of all, the Pomeroy Foundation and their generous grant that made this sign here today. Next is the Neighborhood Association of Sodas Point, which donated money to the buffet we're going to be having. The Town of Sodas Historical Society, and they're working on the committee to make all the arrangements for today. And last and certainly not least, Wayne Action for Racial Equality. And I would ask Jim Wood to come forward and say a few words.
Thank you, Bruce. I would like to extend another welcome to all the descendants that are here and encourage you all to give them another round of applause because they've come from as far away as across the nation. Wayne Action for Racial Equality was pleased that Bruce Farrington and Sandy Hamilton from the Sodas Historical Society approached us over a year ago to participate in commemorating this land here that was unique in Sodas in that it held the first residence of freed slaves. Bad historical beginning for people have flourished into the descendants that are here today and many who couldn't make it today. So on behalf of Wayne Action for Racial Equality, we honor and cherish and support the ongoing efforts to combat racism and see the results before our eyes of what it means to fight and struggle against discrimination and bias. Thank you.
The next thing on the agenda is the brief history of the Maxwell settlement, what is now called the Maxwell settlement. None of this would be possible without one person who painstakingly did the research over decades to get all this information, which was almost impossible to get. And that is Marge Perez. Marge, all the information we know about this is because of her and her research over decades. The history of this settlement starts around 1815. It was a small settlement, only about 80 acres. And the population of it was small, never over 100 people. It was founded by families, many of which who were the free slaves from Peregrine Fitzhugh. His wife freed these slaves after his death in 1811. The history of this place in the 1850s was that it was part of the Underground Railroad. They gave safe haven to freedom seekers and coordinated with the transportation of some of them to Canada from the schooners that ran along the lake, such as the Free Trader. Some of them, they just stayed here in plain sight. We call them freedom seekers today. In those days, they were fugitive slaves. A people whose only crime was they had the audacity to dream of having the same rights as everybody else. The history of this settlement in the 1860s was that it sent 16 of its men to fight in the Civil War. 6 of them would not come back. Those men that fought to preserve the Union. But more importantly, they fought to preserve an idea. And that idea was this: we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. To put that number of sacrifice into context, the nearby village of Sodas Point had 12 times the population of this settlement, and yet only sent 1/4 of the men to fight in the Civil War. The history of this place from the 1880s well into the 20th century was that they had an impact on the life of the community of the surrounding area. As a historian, I've interviewed many of the old timers, and I've heard their stories. They tell of Mrs. Martha Newport, how she would put her pies and her cookies out on the windowsill to cool, and then proceed to share them with all the children of Sodas Point. She was the Pied Piper of baked goods. And then there's the stories I've heard of Henry Newport. Henry was universally liked and respected by all those that met him. He was a Boy Scout, then an Eagle Scout, and finally a major in the U.S. Army. I've heard the stories of the boys who misbehaved, and their parents would say, "Why can't you be more like Henry?" A tough act to follow. And yet, for all of this, when you try to find something about the settlement, until Marge came along, there was no written accounts of this place. When you read through the newspapers, there are no stories about the people that live here. The fact of the matter is, this place had no voice. The history of this settlement is on May 4th, 2019. It finally got its voice. And now I'd like to invite the descendants to come forward and unveil the historic marker and give this place its voice.
Somebody's going to need to pull the ribbon and grab the cloth. Then we're going to do a photo op of each other here anyway. And we got a young one. We got a young one who wants to. He's going to help. Can you help? Granddaughter? Are you going to do it on the count of 3 or what? All right, we're ready. Are you ready?
Can you see?
Yeah, you're all set.